Trump wants all the remaining Bitcoin made in the USA. Are we going to make America Bitcoin maxis again? I was trying to make a funny joke, play on that, but here's the deal, guys. Trump is gone full crypto. We got the update and the scoop on that. Inflation report just came in. It is cooling. Okay. Inflation's still well above the 2% target, but it is cooling. Everybody should feel warm and fuzzy and really good inside when you think of this economy. And so the markets are reacting. They are back up this morning with Bitcoin up to 69,420, 3616 for Ethereum, and XRP back up to 49 cents. A little bit of bump in the stocks and the major indexes as well. Let's get right on into it though, guys. If you appreciate what we do here, make sure you guys subscribe, hit that notification bell, and we got some important updates for you guys that you're not going to want to miss. So make sure you guys stay tuned. Straight into the current events. Russian warships and aircraft entered the Caribbean for military exercises. So we got eyes on this one. We are following and trailing these warships with our own, and it's getting a little spicy down there, right? They were basically within 26 nautical miles of Florida, off the coast of the United States of America, as they head towards Cuba. So we basically got another Cuban Missile Crisis in the works. We're going to be watching it closely. At the same time, BRICS is meeting once again, and now the list has grown to 59 countries which are showing interest to join BRICS in 2024. In October 2024, we will see how many will be added from Chad Steingraber. Now, as I've been saying, we don't need to wait to see Saudi Arabia rip up the petrodollar agreement to watch them already doing trade outside of the US dollar. Are they still accepting US dollars? Well, of course. But they're trying to find ways around the US dollar. They're dropping our reserves. There's 59 countries that now want to join BRICS. Are all 59 going to get in? No, but it's a trend. And the trend is not your friend if you're an American working for US dollars and saving US dollars. And that's the point that I've been trying to get across here. And so with the 59 that are showing interest, remember that there's even more countries that have already dropped the dollar for trade and reserves as well. So we continue to lose our share of global reserves. Meanwhile, the share of global reserves in gold continues to grow. The trend over the last decade is basically a mirror. The US dollar has lost about 10% of the global trade, of the global reserve shares from 2014 to 2023. And the gold has grown by 9%. So the trend definitely happening, and we're going to continue to monitor that situation. Inflation coming out today, broadly cooling, an encouraging sign for Fed officials. So the Wall Streeters, the talking heads, everybody's cheerleading. It's time for that rate cut, right? Well, we're going to find out. We get a decision coming out tomorrow, or is that today, on the Fed rate cuts? Let me check actually here. Let's go to our U.S. economic calendar. FOMC interest rate decision is coming out today. That's going to be at 2 p.m. Eastern. Okay, 2 p.m. Eastern, we are going to get that decision. Let's hone in on this inflation report, though. Came in below forecasts in May, stoking market rally. Traders priced in 2 Fed rate cuts in 2024, first in November. Now they're starting to signal that maybe a September rate cut is on the table. A key measure of underlying U.S. inflation stepped down for a second month in May, a pleasant surprise for Federal Reserve officials looking for signs that they can start to lower interest rates. The so-called Core Consumer Price Index, which excludes food and energy, of course, climbed by 0.2% from April, the BLS figure showed. The year-over-year measure rose 3.4%, cooling to the slowest pace in more than 3 years, according to data out Wednesday. Now, the play on words is very slick in the way that they present this, right? The cooling to the slowest pace, but it's still growing. Inflation is still hot, still well above the 2% target. The figures taken with deceleration in the core CPI in April may represent the early stages of inflation resuming a downward trend. But policymakers have stressed that they'd need to see several months of price pressures receding before they consider lowering interest rates, especially with the latest jobs report reigniting the debate over how restrictive policy actually is. Yeah, the jobs numbers that came out last week, not good. And it's the same thing. The headline jobs numbers was, 270,000 jobs added. But when you look at the household survey, We actually had a loss of 600,000 full-time jobs and a gain of 200,000 part-time jobs. So when you look at the details, they're not looking good. Stocks opened higher and treasuries rallied across the curve, pushing both 2-year and 10-year yields down about 14 basis points. Traders fully priced in 2 rate cuts by the Fed this year, with the first move coming in November, 2 days after the presidential election, which is so convenient, right? Right after we get that election done, then the Fed gets to come out and make a decision that won't be viewed as political, right? Because, of course, the Fed's not political. Of course not. And so we're going to watch and see. You guys let me know in the comments down below if you think that the Fed is going to cut. I mean, we have an announcement coming out today. I think it's highly unlikely that we get any sort of cut today. The markets don't think so either. September rate cut, maybe. That's like the last chance, really, that we have. I think there's a couple meetings. There might be one in July, too. A couple more meetings. And that September one's going to be a big one. The final one before the election in November, and then after that we would get an easy one. It'd be an easy decision to cut rates after that presidential election, because then they would be able to say, see, we're not political. We waited for you guys to elect your president, and now we're going to cut rates. But by that time, how much blood, metaphorically speaking, is going to be spilled into the streets financially, right? Now, and this is what we're talking about, even PIMCO expects more regional bank failures in the U.S. because of a very high concentration of troubled commercial real estate loans on their books. While they tell you the economy is strong, the balance sheets of these regional banks tells a different story. And that story is that it is already starting to break, and this is why they are begging. And you're seeing some of the most prominent and vocal real estate hedge funds begging for real estate cuts, right? It's not just the regular person, the first-time home buyer trying to figure out how to get a deal done, begging for rate cuts. No, it's the biggest billionaire hedge funds and real estate investors in the world that are begging because they have, especially ones with bad exposure to commercial real estate loans, office already being sacrificed, and even PIMCO, along with many others, expecting more regional bank failures on the way. Now, as far as opportunity in the United States of America, well, President Donald Trump says Bitcoin mining may be our last line of defense against a CBDC. Wow. How about that? We want all the remaining Bitcoin made in the USA. And President Trump sure knows how to get everybody excited, doesn't he? And so you guys let me know what you think about that. We did get a lot of the mining. When China banned the Bitcoin mining, I talked about this at the time. I said, well, this is good because currently, we have 4 large mining pools in China that make up 60% of the Bitcoin mining, which if they wanted to fork it at any time, they could. They have over 50% of the hash. And that was a problem for Bitcoin being centralized at the time. Well, after China banned the mining, a lot of the miners came to the United States. The problem is that there's a few large mining pools that still control over 60% of the Bitcoin mining, which is a problem. But if it's going to happen anywhere, I guess we might as well take advantage of it. As long as some folks are going to see value in Bitcoin, we might as well take advantage of it. And that's the beauty of the American idea here, American free market capitalism, is it's not for the president, it's not for anybody to get in the way of somebody who sees value in a Bitcoin and wants to mine Bitcoin, create Bitcoin, find Bitcoin, and use Bitcoin. It's the same exact thing. I'm not going to contradict myself and be a Bitcoin hater, right? When I'm a free market capitalist through and through. And I lean libertarian in my thinking of, as long as you're not harming anybody, go mine your Bitcoin, go use your Bitcoin. Now, of course, some folks say, well, the mining is harming the climate. I'm not going to get into that, but it's the same principle here. We got folks that want to go mine, produce, and get this little precious rock out of the ground. We should be doing some more of that in the United States as well. So I'm here for it. Trump knowing how to campaign this is a good point for him. As we're seeing this voting block in crypto, which is the point that I want to bring home, is that our voting block in crypto, our voices are being heard, and this is why you're seeing Trump pander to our vote. And just imagine the conversations that took place with Ripple and, multiple White Houses. We have White House connections going back a few administrations, don't we? Treasury Department, you name it. We are deeply embedded within the U.S. government. The creator of the XRP Ledger, David Schwartz. You guys already know the deal there. Now let's talk about this one, guys. The deal is done for standard custody. Ripple announces the standard custody acquisition is complete, bringing on Jack McDonald as Senior Vice President of Stablecoins, while he maintains his role as CEO of standard custody. Notes many licenses they hold: Ireland, Singapore, and now New York. Now, okay, let me take a sip of my coffee 1 second here. I want to be careful here. Right now, okay, here's the deal. I have mixed feelings about this whole story coming out. Jack McDonald coming to join Ripple, heading up stablecoins, standard custody being added to Ripple. Absolutely massive. Make no mistake about it. This is a massive, massive deal. Ripple's acquisition of standard custody and trust and the licenses that they just secured in New York is absolutely massive. This is where all of the collateral will be held for tokenizing stablecoins, for tokenizing real-world assets. This is how you do it, is you have a trust company that doesn't lend out against customer deposits, but secures it, holds it, so that it can be held as effective collateral for launching the stablecoins, the real-world assets, and other tokenization that's going to be taking place. That license is massive. On the flip side, the reason why I have mixed feelings about this is because I'm worried about the PolySign investors. There are many people in our community that invested in PolySign. I myself, at one time, considered it. I am not invested in PolySign right now. Full disclosure. I don't hold any shares. I don't have anything to do with PolySign. Last week, I had an insider from PolySign reach out to me. I spoke to this person yesterday. The things that they told me were not good. I am in the process right now of validating, confirming, doing further research, and what I'm compiling that I can find publicly and what I can combine with what this insider told me yesterday, I am putting together, and I'm going to be putting out a video here later, maybe not today, but maybe tomorrow, here ASAP with my findings. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that what the person told me is wrong. But what I'm worried about here, and I'm just going to make this in the most simple terms for everybody to understand, what I'm worried about is that this entity, PolySign, it had many different subsidiaries. MG Stover was the fund administrator. Standard Custody was the trust company with the licenses in New York. PolySign was the tech, the patents, the IP. Atomic Net, another part of that. And PolySign had like 2 different Cayman Islands entities. There's about basically 7 entities that make up this whole structure. You guys saw it reported last November, December, where Boathouse Capital, someone who had given a loan to PolySign, was foreclosing on this loan and this debt obligation. And part of that deal was PolySign had to sell off these assets. They had to split this company up, basically. And so standard custody has now been purchased by Ripple. Ripple's obviously given them cash consideration, and we'll see if we ever get the details on that deal, if that ever does come out. But they're both private companies, so there is no need for them to disclose that. But the problem is that MG Stover has been sold off and taken over by Boathouse Capital. And there is no longer any liens now against PolySign, their patents, their property, because the assets have been splitted up, they've been sold off, and that has satisfied the debt servicing for Boathouse Capital. So the problem is, and the main question that I'm in the middle of researching right now, because basically it looks like all that PolySign is left with is the IPs, the patents, Atomic Net, and that technology. And so I'm researching this. I'm looking into this. I want to be able to report my findings to you guys in a way that's a clean presentation, and that will be coming out here in the next 24 hours. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. But I'll just say, it doesn't sound good, doesn't look good, and it looks like all that PolySign is going to be left with is some patents. I looked up on the registry last night. They got 5-6 patents, something like that. David Schwartz is on a lot of them. They just had a most recent patent approved in 2024 this year, one that they'd filed back in 22 or 23. So they have 5-6 patents. But some key players have left PolySign. They cut 90% of their headcount in their engineering department. And then there's some other things too that I'm going to share with you guys in the next video. It's not looking good. So if you're invested in PolySign, please reach out to me. Let me know any information that you have, anything that you've gathered. I'm in the process of trying to collect all this information, put it together for you guys, but I will be reporting on it. This is great news for Ripple acquiring standard custody and trust. That is absolutely fantastic. But I am getting concerned now about PolySign investors. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. I will be reporting on that in the next video. So make sure you guys subscribe, hit that notification bell. I appreciate all of you guys' support, and we will see you guys in the next one. I hope you guys have a fantastic Wednesday. God bless you all. I am your host, Zach Rector. I really appreciate all of the love and support. If you want to support the channel, just remember that you can start by smashing that thumbs up for me, sharing this content far and wide, and everything else is at my website.